They said madness wore no crown, yet in Okuru, it did, and its name was Tafa. Every morning, before the sun rose over the orange roofs of the town, Tafa could be seen walking down the dusty streets, barefoot and laughing to himself. His clothes were rags, his hair wild, his eyes bright as fireflies. Children threw pebbles at him, traders mocked him, and drivers honked just to hear him shout strange things into the air. But there was something unsettling about him, something no one could quite name. For though his laughter sounded wild, his words always came true. "Eh," he would shout, standing in the middle of the market. "Okuru, Okuru. You feed on your own shadow and call it wealth. When the wind begins to laugh, the proud will crawl like ants. And the women selling fish would hiss. Go away, madman. Keep your cursed mouth shut. I beg, somebody chase him." But a week later, the chief's storehouse burned down, struck by lightning under a clear sky. And people began to whisper. Okuru was not an ordinary town. It was rich, filled with men who built big houses with walls so high even the wind could not climb. Yet beneath the glitter, there was rot. The elders traded land for favors, the politicians built roads that led to nowhere, and the youth, they left one by one, chasing dreams that died in the city. But no one spoke of these things openly, except Tafa. He would stand by the old tree in the center of the market and speak in riddles that made no sense at first. Where the river forgets its source, he'd say, the fish begin to dance upside down. The people would laugh. See this madman. But when the town's main well dried up, even though it was the rainy season, the laughter stopped for a moment. Then it returned, louder than before. Because fear, in Okuru, always disguised itself as mockery. Only one person never laughed at Tafa. Her name was Aisha, a young widow who sold roasted maize near the bus stop. Her husband had died in a strange accident at the sawmill 2 years earlier. Since then, she had lived quietly, caring for her little daughter, Miriam, and listening more than she spoke. She noticed things others ignored. How Tafa always appeared near people just before misfortune struck. How his laughter turned to tears when no one was watching. How sometimes, he would stand before the abandoned shrine at the edge of town, whispering names that made the wind go still. One evening, after everyone had left the market, she saw him sitting by her store, humming softly. "Baba Tafa," she said gently, "why do you always laugh?" He looked up, his eyes sharp, suddenly sober. "Because laughter confuses death," he said. "If you smile at the storm, it forgets your name." Aisha frowned. "What storm?" He leaned closer. "The one your leaders called with blood." She froze. "What do you mean?" Tafa looked away, humming again. "Don't worry, Aisha. When the drums begin to beat under the ground, keep your child away from the market square." Then he stood up, smiling sadly, and walked into the darkness. The next morning, the town awoke to strange news. The mayor's younger son had died in his sleep, no sickness, no wound, just gone. People whispered. Maybe it was witchcraft. Maybe it's the work of that madman. Someone swore they had seen Tafa standing near the mayor's house the night before, his face wet with tears. By afternoon, a crowd had gathered. Men shouted, "Catch him! He's the one bringing curses." Tafa was found by the old shrine, sitting cross-legged in the dust, tracing patterns with his finger. They dragged him to the square, beating him as they went. He didn't fight back. He only laughed, a hollow, broken sound. When they threw him before the elders, the mayor's brother shouted, "Confess, madman. What have you done to us?" Tafa looked up, his lips bleeding. "You did it to yourselves," he said quietly. "You made a promise in the dark and forgot to keep it. Now, the dark has come to collect." The elders grew uneasy. "What promise?" they asked. But he only smiled, whispering, "Ask the river what it swallowed the night your town was built." And then he began to sing, a slow, haunting tune that no one recognized. That night, the elders ordered him locked in the old police cell by the hill. The people cheered. "The madman will trouble us no more." But that night, thunder roared across the sky, though the stars were bright. And by dawn, 3 of the men who had beaten Tafa were found dead, faces twisted, mouths filled with sand. The town trembled. Even the boldest gossip fell silent. The mayor's wife went to the church to pray, the imam held midnight vigils, and the herbalist began to refuse visitors. But still, misfortune spread like smoke. Goats gave birth to stillborns. The river turned muddy. And strange laughter echoed through the streets at midnight, laughter that sounded like Tafa's, though he was still locked away. Aisha's maize stopped selling. No one came out much anymore. But she couldn't shake the image of Tafa's sad eyes when he said, "Ask the river." So one evening, she took her daughter by the hand and went to the edge of the river that bordered Okuru, the same river where elders poured libations during town festivals. The water was black, thick like oil. She knelt and whispered, "River Mother, what did they do to you?" The wind sighed. And then she heard it, faint but clear, "They buried their guilt in me." Aisha jumped back, heart pounding. Miriam tugged her hand. "Mama, someone is crying in the water." She looked again, and for a split second, she saw faces beneath the surface. Men, women, children, eyes open, mouths moving soundlessly. She grabbed her child and ran. That night, she had a dream. And in her dreams, Tafa came to her, standing under a tree surrounded by fireflies. His rags were gone. He looked younger, calmer. "Aisha," he said, "they killed the river spirit when they built Okuru. They promised her children in return for wealth. But they lied. And now she has sent me, her last son, to remind them that every promise must be kept." She gasped. You're not mad." He smiled sadly. "Madness is the only language truth can speak in a town built on lies." Then he pointed toward the hill. "Tomorrow, when the drums begin to sound, the river will rise. The guilty will try to flee. You must take your child and go east before sunset." She woke up trembling. Outside, the sky was red, though it was dawn. By mid-morning, the whole town was in chaos. The river had overflowed overnight, swallowing 2 farms and a section of the main road. The ground trembled faintly, like something alive beneath it. The mayor called for the police to move Tafa, fearing the people might blame him again. But when the officers opened the cell, it was empty. Only a small puddle remained on the floor, glistening like water from the river. By afternoon, drums began to beat, slow, heavy, from somewhere underground. The air smelled of rain, though no clouds showed. Children cried without knowing why. Aisha packed a small bag and held Miriam's hand tight. As they passed the market, they saw crowds gathering. The ground beneath the old tree cracked open slightly, and water began to seep through. From the fissure, a voice echoed, deep and sorrowful. "Okuru, Okuru, where are your promises?" The people screamed and ran. But as Aisha turned to leave, she saw Tafa standing by the tree, calm, almost glowing. The water rose around his feet, but he didn't move. The mayor and the elders rushed forward, shouting for the people to stay calm. "Tafa, you're behind this." He looked at them with pity. "You built your wealth on her grave," he said softly. "Did you think she would sleep forever?" The ground roared. Water burst from beneath the market, flooding the stalls, washing away goods and stands. People fled in all directions. The elders fell to their knees, begging. "What do we do?" Tafa lifted his hands. "Confess. Return what was stolen. Free the bound souls." The mayor shook his head. "We didn't kill anyone." Tafa's eyes darkened. "Then whose bones lie under your meeting hall?" Gasps. The crowd turned to stare at the mayor. He trembled. "It wasn't me, it was our fathers. They told us never to touch that place." The flood rose higher. Aisha grabbed her daughter and ran for the hill. Behind her, she heard Tafa's voice rising above the storm. "Okuru, the river remembers." Lightning struck the old tree, splitting it in two. A flash of gold light filled the air, and then, silence. When the rain stopped, Okuru was half gone. The market, the mayor's mansion, the meeting hall, all washed away. Only the hill remained, and those who had fled early enough. Days later, when the survivors went back to search for the dead, they found something strange. In the center of the flooded square, the tree stump glowed faintly. And sitting upon it was a small wooden carving, shaped like Tafa, smiling, holding a tiny bowl of water. No one ever saw him again. But sometimes, at dawn, traders swore they heard laughter by the river, not mocking laughter, but soft, gentle, like a song carried by wind. And the river? It flowed clear again. Fish returned. Crops began to grow once more. A year later, during the town's Remembrance Festival, Aisha stood by the riverbank with her daughter. She placed a small calabash of maize on the water and whispered, "Thank you, Tafa." Miriam tugged her hand. "Mama, look." She followed the child's finger. There, just above the water, a shimmer, like sunlight shaped into a man, smiling before fading into mist. Aisha smiled through her tears. And from that day on, she told every traveler who passed through Okuru, "Never laugh at the madman. Sometimes, he is the only one who still hears the gods when they cry." Not every madness is foolishness. Some laughter hides the deepest pain, and some wanderers walk paths we fear to see. When a land builds its riches on broken promises, the earth itself will rise to remind it that every soul, even forgotten ones, must be remembered. Please let us know where you are watching from. Leave a comment below. We love to hear from you. Please like the video and share with your family and friends. Please also subscribe to this channel so we can bring more videos to you. Thanks for being part of us.